For Phil, I think his word was hope, because, rather, his word was also vulnerability, and the hope comes out of the vulnerability. Phil saw the process between these weapons of death and darkness and the mountain of Isaiah as the way of the cross that meant the victory. The weapon is really our emptiness, our vulnerability, and that's what the cross is all about. And therefore, the media, okay, they come along, that's good. Get attention, all right. But the means, as Gandhi says, are the end. So that tremendous sense of what it's really about in our hearts. And I think Dan, who would very much like to be with us, his word now echoes, I think, what we've just heard about celebration. Dan emphasizes over and over again that there's the bad news, but the good news. And the good news is the gospel, and the good news is hope. And I know in our Kairos meetings, if people are getting down and depressed and talking about all the awful things that are going on, that he says, all right, next time, let's talk about hope. So that is Dan, and his very gentleness and poetry and peace that pours out of him expresses that hope. And I would like to say that in that learning process, I think I came to a beginning, and I still have a few years to go to learn the rest of it, of what that heart means. When we stood on last All Souls Day, before the bunkers, the Trident missile bunkers, next to that beautiful Puget Sound, gotten through the last fence, and stood there, I think the words of Ezekiel as well as Isaiah's were prominent for me. That Ezekiel says we must take out our hearts of stone and replace them with hearts of flesh. And to look at those stone bunkers and then see the beautiful dawn come up behind them, in spite of the fact the Star-Spangled Banner was playing off to the side, I had this sense of terrific joy. Now, how do you have joy in the presence of these nuclear bunkers? And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to pay for this, but the joy was still there, and I think it's that sense of that heart of flesh that you can just bring in for a moment. So in my next 30 years, which I don't think I want, I hope I can learn a little more, because I feel like I'm just beginning, and I guess we're all in the same place. And I would like to end mentioning Elmer especially, with a thanks for supporters, all the hidden, humble people, as he was, who are doing a real nitty-gritty work behind us, following us up, writing to us in prison, and making things happen that could not otherwise happen. And please, let's give them a hand. All those people.
Well, I had an idea this was going to be kind of emotional. But sitting next to Carl, weeping there in the front row, you couldn't see it, as he was watching the pictures of our community all across this country. And the courage and the creativity and the beauty and the tears pouring down Carl's face. Oh, he's got a great sense of humor, but it's that enormous heart that is, like all of us, just caught between weeping, outrage, joy, hope. And after I saw that, and after I spent this day with you, I've decided to leave you a gift. I'm going to entrust here tonight the future of my 19 grandchildren to all of you. Thank you. I wrote out a few notes because I knew I might go in all kinds of directions, and I was kind of emotional. And here's what came to me first, just off the top of my head, because this 30th anniversary, it is a powerful stimulus to memory. Yet we don't want to walk and just look backwards, so we might turn into pillars of salt. We know we're all looking forward and we're going forward, but you look backwards, and what do you really remember first? And just a few things about faith and community and joy. All of these have been spoken of many times already today. Faith and community and joy. Well, those intentionally shocking words of Dan Berrigan. And I actually heard this quoted in a Catholic Mass. Faith is where your ass is. In other words, a new beatitude. Blessed are you who have put your lives on the line. And then I recall Liz at an early, struggling, ragtag Atlantic Life Community Retreat, and maybe a little exasperated at all the confusion and the lack of us knowing who we were and where we were going. And she said, you know, this isn't going to go very far without community. Well, Liz, we've gone somewhere. As you pointed out, we've got somewhere to go. And let's all go all the way home together. And then the third word was joy. So much joy. One of the gifts of the Spirit. In the worst of circumstances, how does it come? Where does this gift come from? Carl never came into courtroom except he was jangling chains, rattling handcuffs, and singing, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I say rejoice, and pretty soon the whole courtroom is singing, "Rejoice in the Lord always," and we lift it up, ready to go ahead. The astonishment, the joy that swept through Montgomery County Prison as we're there, and we hear that Peter DeMott has rammed the rudder of a nuclear submarine all by his solitary self at electric boat. Or Elmer Moss. Comes to me 1,000 times in my lifetime. Elmer Moss, in the darkness we were of the holding tank, facing, as they were writing up 13 felony charges, everything they could imagine and conceive of. So we're sitting there a little bit stunned, a little bit quiet, dark, not knowing what's next. You hear this voice. "Elmer, this is the happiest day of my life."